Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, we've got a Federal Reserve meeting this week, and the probability for a 50 basis point cut has come back to over 50%. So I have never seen a Federal Reserve meeting where we got to the day and there was that much uncertainty about what's going to happen. I wonder if the Fed is going to say something. In the meantime, the treasuries haven't really moved that much, and we might get some really jarring repricings today. So let's try to go through this as quickly as we can. You have some rollovers in here. I'll do that. So coming over here to the treasuries, you can see we are moving on the upside, but it hasn't moved that much and it hasn't gotten above these highs, but that might be a target for today. Again, it's just like we've been in this narrow range. If it's going to be a 25 basis point cut, we've got to come way down, and if it's going to be a 50 basis point cut, we're probably going to be above this. So we could see some sort of a violent repricing sometime today, and I'm already seeing some pretty strong action happening here in the main treasuries. S&P 500, little bit higher. Not too much, but I mean, man, that recovery looks amazing. Oil. So there is some geopolitical risk out there. The Houthis shot at Israel with a supersonic missile, but there is still concerns about oil demand. So that appears to be the most powerful flow over there. Still, gold and silver. Gold looking really good. Silver looking pretty okay too. 2 big days in a row. Wow, on silver. Copper's still kind of down there. I tell you what, when China takes off, man, I could see copper really shooting out here. But for now, and then we got the Japanese yen. Japanese yen moving a little bit higher, and the dollar moving a little bit lower. So if we lower interest rates 50 basis points, then that's going to really hit the dollar, right? And the Japanese yen becoming a flight to safety currency again. There's some good things and bad things about that. Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin made an attempt at 60,000 and got smacked back down again. Oh, Bitcoin. All right, so let's come back over here. Okay, so the action in the treasuries, while we were doing that, the action in the treasuries kind of sputtered out. At least the large meta order buy has kind of subsided. We did have a pretty good strong move up there, but it was a little bit messy as well. So I don't think that we can read that as just like the last say on it, right? And what often will happen in the treasuries in a situation like this is they'll go the wrong way first. So let's stay on our toes here and write some notes. So we got Fed meeting this week. 50 BP point cut, probabilities above 50%. That's going to be a major flow. That is going to be a reason for people to want to take trades, right? That's one that a situation that we don't see very often, but that's something that I think will drive orders, right? We got the New York Fed manufacturing at the bottom of the hour. We got a reading of 11.5 versus an expected reading of a negative 4.3. So let's put in here New York Fed manufacturing hot 3 and 6 month bills. Six. Mondays tend to be quieter. I don't know if that's going to be the case today, though. Okay, so if something happens, I think you could see some wild trends. Okay, wow, that really fell. How much delta was on that? Well, I'm not seeing a ton of delta in the 10-year, but in the 5-year, they just creamed that thing, man. The Fed is going to follow the 2-year bond, so it's up to them to not look too stupid. I don't know. Seems like it should still be a 50 basis or a 25 basis point cut. I just oh crap, I didn't get this. Came down pretty hard. It's backing up a little bit. This is... I don't think I've ever seen the treasuries get this wild early on a Monday, man. And I'm extremely unsure if that trend is going to continue or if it's going to flip back around and turn back up. I kind of think that this market reaction is kind of triggered by the New York Fed manufacturing number. Like when the number came out, you did see a pretty strong push down in the treasuries, followed by the move up, the trend up, and then followed by this washout to the downside. So this washout to the downside could be just the New York Fed manufacturing data, but okay, so anyways, some other things going on right now that I think will contribute to market turmoil that I just remembered. Can you believe this? I just, when you go to sleep, everything kind of, it's like a blank slate, and it takes me a little bit to remember everything that happened the day before. Another Trump assassination attempt. That probably boosts Trump sentiment again. And that seems to be driving flows in the markets over again. And also, ABC, what should we say? Rigged the debate. ABC rigged the debate. So there was a whistleblower that somebody was saying that they had an affidavit they were going to release to everybody. And on Sunday, that person came through. They have well, I mean, they redacted some information on the affidavit to protect the person, but they have an affidavit. The person, they signed it the day before the debates. And they, he claimed that not only was it like, okay, they agreed that they would fact check Trump and not Kamala Harris, and there were certain questions that they weren't allowed to ask Kamala Harris. The funny thing about this one is that, like, ABC said, oh, no, we didn't rig the debate. I think that the headline you originally got was that they gave Kamala the questions ahead of time. But the guy didn't say that. He said that they gave her sample questions that were pretty much like the same topics. So, ABC, I think that their denial was like a non-denial. And then when that thing came out, there's kind of been some other stuff. Like, for instance, the girl, I forget her name, but the moderator, the female moderator, she pretty much said, yeah, we prepared to fact check Trump and not anybody else. And there's this whole thing about all of the work and everything that they did to do it. So ABC is pretty much admitting that the affidavit is true. So on one hand, that kind of makes it maybe a little bit not as like earth-shattering of a headline as I thought it would be, for there to be like a strong market reaction. But I do think that this is going to be something that's going to play into things. You know, it's a week after the debate. Could you tell how, like, even a few days after the debate, the media wasn't really talking about the debate anymore? That really strongly suggests to me that the debate did not help Kamala, despite so many people claiming that she won the debate. So that's a big deal. And then, yes, as Uzi is pointing out, on the Trump assassination attempt. So Trump was on a golf course. The Secret Service, rather, was a hole ahead of him, saw the person pointing his gun through a fence and fired at him. The guy ran away in a car, and a passerby was able to record it. And so the police were able to track the guy down and pull him over. So he's alive. So this is, I tell you what, this is the crazy thing, is like, the internet seems to care greatly whether he was a Republican or a Democrat, which is hilarious to me, that there's some people out there that are so obsessed with that. He is a Ukrainian crazy. Like, he was over there in Ukraine, like, trying to recruit people to join, like, the Ukrainian Foreign Legion sort of a thing. It's really wild. Really, like, he just seems completely off his rocker to me. And, but again, the crazy thing is he's alive. So, like, we'll get to hear from him. That is, unless, somebody kills him in custody, which wouldn't surprise me to hear a headline any second now saying that he has died in custody. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, they do that with every shooter, though. Don't you think it's kind of a little bit bizarre now, though? Like, okay, so when it was a shooter and it was like the what was it, the transgender shooter that shot up a Christian school, right? And people were trying to argue about what he was, but it's kind of like, well, that he was transgender is kind of a significant difference between previous shootings, and seems to be part of a trend, actually, to be honest with you. Look, there are people out there that have mental health issues, and they will cling to different things, and it's a lot of these people are autistic, frankly. Wouldn't surprise me if this guy was autistic. Like, the things that I'm seeing, immediately, he's autistic, obsessed with this one issue, etc., etc. That's what happens to him. And He's on record having met Ukrainian Ministry of Defense officials. Yes. So this one's going to be interesting. People are calling for like an independent investigation, and this is just all this wild stuff. Because he has such strong connections with Ukraine, there's going to be a lot of question about if he was put up to it by somebody, which again makes it kind of interesting that he survived. Right. But you know what? I kind of feel like that if somebody put him up to it, that they wouldn't be this sloppy. So my guess is that he was acting alone, but it's going to be a thing, probably a thing for the rest of our lives, people trying to prove that he was actually sent by Zelensky. I'm trying to remember, do you remember, Uzi, any headlines like rumors suggesting that Zelensky outright wanted Trump dead? So I seem to vaguely remember something to that effect. I definitely remember stories that Ukraine was very unhappy that Donald Trump might be president again. I do remember that. Yeah, live in a world of stupid things are happening and no one can rein in the stupid. Well, you know, it's a really frustrating that the media keeps getting away with it, because it used to be that media was very, very cautious about what they say in public. People who were like celebrities and stuff were very cautious about what they say in public, because it could both ruin your business and because people could do crazy things based on what you say. I try to be cautious about what I say because I know there are people that are going to watch, and frankly, with my stream, autistic person, slightly more likely to enjoy my stream. And, you know, so whatever kind of weird thing that I say, if they're in the right mood that day, that could be the thing that they become obsessed with, you know? So I have this long running theory, and I have a little bit of evidence to support it with my own children, but one child is autistic, the other one is maybe ADHD. But he's probably too young to be saying something like that for the younger one. But Azure is definitely is autistic, and what I have found is, you know, he will develop intense interests, but I can influence it. I can be like, you know, feed him up a little bit better that day. He had good rest the day before. You know, like you get all of the conditions right, his body is like at its healthiest, and then whatever you introduce during that time, he will show a stronger interest for. So it's like it's hard to develop the brain connections when he is in the best mood to be able to develop those brain connections. Then he likes that thing. That's how it works. So it could be anything. It's just like what they're introduced to at that time, which is a little bit scary, actually, when you think about it. Yeah, it's just going to cumulatively get worse. I think so too. Unless the media changes their tune. But like, you just look at the immediate aftermath of this, they're not, right? They're trying to blame it on Trump. They're not saying, oh, hey, maybe we should tone down our rhetoric. No. It's all Trump's fault. And you know what? We said probably there will be other assassination attempts on Trump. This has happened so quickly after the other one that I bet you that there's a third one before this is all said and done. If there's not a third one before the election, there will be a third one before he's out of office. Probably. And it does make you wonder Okay, so here's another thing. Some people are saying, well, this is a big failure for the Secret Service and blaming the Secret Service. I'm not so sure about that. Because, like, how do you secure a golf course like that? Well, there is going to be a limit on who can be at the course when he's there. But this guy was coming in through the fence. So how do you secure that? That's Zero's talking to a neighbor about the Abdul thing about the debate. I'm not sure who you're talking about. I explained to him who that guy was and how everyone on TV knew who he was, but today they're telling you Trump made him up as a racist trope. I asked him, why would they lie to you about something so trivial? So the thing that I think you have to understand, again, is that most people are not working on facts and logic. The reality is that facts and logic are not a flexible enough system to deal with and understand the world as a whole. It's not. If that was the case, if facts and logic were so powerful, then autistic people would dominate the world. Okay? Some autistic people can do really well, and they can kind of find ways to take their kind of unique way of looking at the world and turn it to their advantage. But by and large, most autistic people do not do very well at all. And why is that? Because intuition is more powerful ultimately. Intuition is faster. Intuition is more complex. Intuition allows us to understand and take advantage of things that are way more complicated than our logical facilities are able to deal with. Right? And so when you get down into intuition, though, there are weaknesses in intuition. And a large part of it is that intuition can be easily fooled, or you can basically be programmed wrong, and then your intuition will just end up being bad over and over and over again. And if there's nothing there to like give you direct feedback that your intuition is wrong, you'll just continue to do it. So that's probably something. There's 2 minutes of your time on YouTube. Oh, okay. Yeah, you send me a clip of who we're talking about. But anyways, the intuition can like continue to be wrong unless you're getting direct feedback. So that's probably something that we need to add into our little intuition videos, is that there has to be like direct feedback. You can't just be taking an action based on your intuition and then forgetting about it. You need to actively review what you did and why and whether it was correct or not, in order for you to develop your intuition. So what has happened is, because people are consuming such different media, that we have two groups of people whose intuition on things are exactly the opposite, right? And so on one hand, there is the media. They have fallen into this trap themselves, and they kind of have their own intuition about things, about like which stories we should cover and how we should cover it, etc., etc. That I think is bad in a lot of cases. And like something I've noticed about people is that like whatever model they have in their brain, we are like programmed. We're not programmed. We are like wired naturally to want to convince everybody else around us to use that model too. So then the media perpetuates this false model. And then there are people in the media that know better. Like they will look at a situation and they see, actually there's a problem here. But the model is so entrenched that then the tribal kind of factors come in, get involved and suppress that, this is actually what's going on, and reprograms them into doing what everybody else is doing, even though they know better, right? So when you go, that's why when you go on Reddit, you'll see these people saying like, well, for starters, there's a lot of people that think that it was staged. There's a lot of people that think like, they're basically they're mad that he survived. There's people that are mad that he survived. There are people that think that Donald Trump brought it on himself, that it was his divisive rhetoric that led to this, right? And why like that one in particular doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, does it? Why would Trump, you know, why would his rhetoric about they're eating dogs and cats in Ohio cause somebody to assassinate him? Like, I just think it's a little bit crazy. And not like, oh, you know, the media and all the celebrities like dreaming about killing him. It's crazy, right? But it's just one kind of little instance that we can kind of look at, that where you can kind of look at the intuitive models that people have, and you can kind of analyze it. You should be able to get to the point where you can predict how they're going to react, right? So some practice for us, I guess. I mean, it's useful for us in the trading, even as messed up of a situation as it is. Okay, yeah, let me watch this video here.
The man who now leads the Taliban in Afghanistan.
That was going out to the main thing. Here, hold on a second. How do I sound and mixer options, Discord, and I think that we want now. Why do I get 2 Discords?
Afghanistan.
There we go. Oh, what? I know what you're talking about. Well, that. Well, I'm wondering who. I'm still watching it. Sorry. Oh, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, I need to pull this out. I need to keep an eye on this more closely. Because I'm on support this week. Yeah, so, you know, it would be interesting to me to go down and find all of the instances of people in the So what Uzi sent me a video about was there. Donald Trump told a story during the debate that basically when he was negotiating with the Taliban, he showed the Taliban leader a picture of his house to prove to him that they knew where he was, and if he did anything, they were going to kill him specifically, and because of that, they behaved during that timeline where they were trying to pull out. And some people in the media, you know, started to question the story, say that it didn't happen, and in particular, they claimed that leader of the Taliban that he named, this Abdul guy, that he was made up. And then other people went back and found all of these instances on the media where the media several years ago talked about this guy and named him and all of this stuff, right? And so Uzi's saying, well, they were just they're outright lying to people. But I would wonder if you went and took all, who were all of the people that claimed that that was happening? Because I'm going to guess that, there's going to be a subset of people that don't really know. Or like one person will say that, and then they'll all copy that one person without actually knowing themselves. But this is kind of the problem I see with media in general right now. The media that we have is not a real media. They're basically government stenographers. Like on the ABC debate, they fact-checked Donald Trump about the cats and dogs thing. And the way that they fact-checked him was they said, well, we called the city manager in that city. They don't have a mayor, they have a city manager, right? And he said that it's not happening. Even though other people have gone and done some research and have found police reports to that effect and found a lot of individuals in the neighborhood testifying to this fact, it kind of seems to me like it's a thing that the residents believe is happening but can't prove, per se, because the animals just disappeared. So they didn't go on the ground and actually do the research. They just called the government and then said what the government said, right? They've become government stenographers. And another issue is that it used to be that, we would have, that it was very segregated what topics you would cover. So, you would have your war correspondent and you'd have your expert on this and you'd have your expert on this thing, right? And then whatever was going on, they would go and turn to that person, right? But what happened was that the news kind of evolved into the 24-hour news cycle where political pundits are like their biggest stars. And so then we end up with oftentimes these talking head people are the ones that are giving us the information and giving us information on a broad scope of topics. And they don't all know, they're not experts in all of these things. Like I can see this with myself. Like, so I have to try and cover all of the news that might impact elections and might impact the markets. And that's a really broad range of topics, right? I would love to have the resources to start a competing news network. I honestly think that we could do a better job than CNBC could. I honestly think that we could do it. But one of the things that I think I would do if I was going to run a network like that is I would want to have people be experts on specific things and force people to stay in their lanes, Because there's this real issue with, I can't possibly know everything about everything to even hope or dream of being able to keep you completely informed on everything all by myself. And we'll see that all the time where like I'll see an issue and I'll read about it, and so I remember enough about it to talk about it on the stream, and then the next day it becomes a bigger deal, and then some of the more fine details about that story matter, and I didn't have those when I talked about it the first time. Like the dogs and cats thing is like a good example of where it was like, well, we don't really have evidence of that, but it seems like Trump is going all in on it. Then he went all in on it, and then it was like, well, okay, now we can actually like look into the details, and when we look into the details, he's not so crazy to be saying it. Yeah, this is just a weird thing. It's not a weird thing. It's a problem in our society that we're dealing with. In addition to all our other things. I don't know. I really the bigger part of it is that our systems are not scaling. We had a system that we had developed over a few hundred years in how news is disseminated. And when we got to television, that model translated over into television really well. And then on top of that, it gave the government actually a lot of power to control the narrative, right? But then when we came over to the internet, our systems have not scaled at all. Basically, all of our systems have just like fallen flat. And so I'm sitting here trying to come up with new models and ways of looking at things and doing things that I hope that the society can use to deal with those issues. But I feel like that nobody cares. You know, everybody just wants to go into whatever story they read and just go and rage about stuff instead of, well, I guess the thing is that like kind of part of what was my solution is I read a lot of different news sources and I spend a lot of time trying to keep myself educated, informed about things that are going on right now that might be relevant. And I've discovered that it's really not practical to expect everybody to do that. And it's not practical to tell people, well, if you're not informed, if you're not one of those people that are informed, then you probably shouldn't engage in those issues. They're still going to want to engage in those issues, and they're still going to not understand when they're in their lane and when they're not. I probably don't understand when I'm outside of my lane. So I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. Let's see here. Every friend or neighbor I've asked that who's Democrat had the same answer. Oh, people don't remember people's names. To which I say, yeah, we don't, but the people on TV do. If they were so, if there was, I would like to see. Is there an instance of somebody that's supposed to be an expert on the war in Afghanistan that said that this Abdul guy was made up? Because then I'd be very like, how did you not know? Oh my, what's Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports saying about Zelensky? Will Zelensky disavow? There's got to be some context in here. No context. He hasn't posted anything. Okay, interesting. Is their latest report? Man, there is a lot of noise in their daily tracker. But their latest report shows Trump and Harris completely flipping on each other. That's curious. That's not the first time we've seen flips like that though, and they completely reverse the next day, so. And that's from what, the 11th now? Right after the debate. I think that's what that is. Oh, wait. We can see. No, it is the 15th. 12th to the 15th. It's over the weekend. Interesting. Whenever I think about Harris winning, so is this the ADHD in me? Whenever I think about Harris winning, my mind immediately goes to. Oh wait, hold on a second. Something else. Every time I think about Harris winning, I come back. My mind is immediately drawn to the feminization of American politics. Is what I'm going to call it. Like, women have been able to vote for a long time now, but women were never a not necessarily. Let's not say never, but they were not a demographic on which like the election hinged upon. Right. This election, it's basically like women voters versus these blue collar workers. That's I think like the biggest, and maybe you could put young voters in there too. Young voters would probably be in there too, and that's like what's going to determine this election. And if Harris wins, I keep getting this feeling that like all of the politics will shift towards the politicians trying to play to these group of single female voters, and what that's going to do. So, let's see here. Iranian president. Israel was seeking to drag us into a regional war, assassinating Haniya, but so far we have exercised self-restraint. We reserve the right to defend ourselves and do not want to be under sanctions, but we will not accept humiliation. Okay, so more on the Iranian strategy to, show restraint here. Interesting that he's commenting about it now, though. Okay, so this is an interesting post. From Brannigan Barrett, this is the WTI oil chart from 1995. It is eerily similar to current day oil chart. Why 1995? Because that's the only time we've had a, quote, soft landing. What should oil do if the Fed achieves a soft landing? Well, it definitely should not be breaking lower. If anything, the curve should remain in backwardation and prices should rebound. Don't forget, the Fed only cut rates twice in the 1995 cycle. The economy was strong enough to rebound with limited stimulus. Moreover, oil rallied 57% in the 10 months following. The Fed begins cutting cycle this week. Oil should be supported. If prices continue to fall, it is signaling demand destruction, and no amount of rate cuts will prevent a recession. And here's the chart. And you can see it was falling apart, and then actually, can I get a bigger image? Oh, okay, so 1995 is right in here. Oh, and he's starting it at when they did the cuts, I guess. And it went sideways and then higher by about 50%. It won't be long before oil costs $50. $50 a barrel? Ooh. If we're getting the demand destruction, then maybe. So, will the cut be 50 basis points or 25 basis points? Well, the current pricing suggests 50 basis points, but it's close. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Not anymore. It seems to me like the 10-year treasury in particular is not moving as much as it should based on that. Like the bills are and stuff are pricing it, but not the bigger treasuries, which is a little disconcerting to me. But so what are the factors in favor of 50? Well, we had a bunch of data that was soft. We didn't see that in the most recent data, but there was some data that was soft before that. And things in other countries are kind of falling apart. Like other central banks are cutting, Europe does not look very good, etc., right? So that's kind of the things that's involved in the 50. And the 25 basis point cut is like the most recent economic data that we've gotten strongly suggests that we get 25 basis points. And the idea that the Fed would want to cut rates and want to have time to see the impact of their cut. So that weakness in Europe, that would maybe be something that would also be on the side of, are we seeing demand destruction? Right. So oil continuing to go down would be disconcerting. But this morning they're on the upside. So yeah, why is NBC News describing a second assassination attempt against the president as a golf club? Because obviously they don't want to present it as a assassination attempt because that helps Donald Trump. Would probably improve Donald Trump's support. Anyways, this is a good post by Greg Barrett. I'm still not quite sure what to think of these treasuries. I am still kind of thinking that what we saw was mostly that New York Fed data, which is kind of weird that it was on a Monday, right? What's with that? But I'm not seeing anything in the action here. Actually, maybe I'm wrong. So we are down a little bit, but when I look at the overall flow in the 10-year, it is up by about 6,000 contracts or so. So there is slight evidence of a large buying meta order out there. So maybe somebody is buying, trying to reprice it to the 50 basis point cut. But the New York Fed manufacturing data is ending up being more important at the moment. Oh yeah, they're still talking here in Discord. Oh, I guess not. By the way, on Discord, if you guys want to message me on Discord, just message me. If it doesn't let you message me, you need to change your own privacy settings to allow, messages between people that aren't your friends. Because I get so many friend requests every day. I'm not going to add everybody. Okay, I'm just not. But you can message me. It should make it as like a message request, and then I go through those every day and address them all. Oh, that's weird. So there was this thread on, I think, Friday that was asking why, educators don't post their P&L. And now there's another one today. Oh, no. Well, actually, you know what? I'm looking at the old thing. Well, I will show people my P&L if I am asked. And it's not always positive. So all these people claiming to be profitable are probably full of crap. The interest rate market may well become heavy today. I don't know, TLA. I mean, there seems to be a force in the market that really strongly believes that it's going to be a 50 basis point cut, and the pricing kind of seems like it's moving in their direction right now, and so you might see a move on the upside instead. I don't know. The Fed does not like it to be a surprise. So I'm kind of thinking that we will get something today or tomorrow. Like, I think we should probably be sitting there with Nick Timoros's Twitter, like just hitting refresh on his page, right? Because that's where it's going to come out at. And like a large part of why it's going back towards 50 basis points is because of a story that Nick Timoros posted, but it was not an article sourced by Federal Reserve sources. So we'll see if what the Federal Reserve decides that they want to have a say on it or what. Because I think that a surprise of 50 basis point cut surprise would be like a really huge thing. And if they surprised the market with that, I think that there would be a really strong probability of it causing overheating. So I don't think that you want it to be a surprise like that. Doesn't make sense. Well, because it's been that. I think Obsidian, that the reason is because they themselves don't know how the committee is thinking about it. There's probably some people on the board that do want 50 basis points and other people that want 25, and it's unclear which one is in the majority. That's why. So here's the thing. The meeting goes over 2 days. So you have the meeting tomorrow and then the beginning of Wednesday. So there's a very good chance, or something that I've seen frequently, is that the market somehow sniffs out or gets leaks and knows what's happening in the meeting, and you'll start to see strong trend come into the treasuries. So if we see a strong trend come into the treasuries tomorrow, it probably won't happen during our session, but like later in the day, you probably just want to go with it, because it might be leak of the Fed meeting. Yeah, here's another post on Reddit. They're trying to claim that the guy that shot at Trump was a right-winger. What's your opinion on using power meter to check the strength of breakouts? Are you talking about this power meter? You talking about this thing? Yeah, I don't know. I've never really used it. I feel like I can kind of tell just from looking at it. I think one of the issues that you got to contend with is that, liquidity conditions vary. And so, like, some people will try and look at how far it's gone. That's not what the power meter does. The power meter looks at how much, is just kind of like overall changes in volume. But it still kind of depends on the current liquidity conditions. So like the power meter might be a good supplement if you find yourself not being able to notice that very well on your own using the DOM, but it wouldn't be a good replacement for the DOM. You still want to have the DOM up and be learning to watch that. And you should be able to see it without the power meter. You know? Power meter in depths and cells. There's no such thing in Jigsaw. You must mean the reconstructed tape? So like this one right here. So these meters in Jigsaw are really good at showing you what if there's a market imbalance between buyers and sellers. Especially this one where you can come in to the power meter, and there's like a short-term power meter and a long-term power meter, so that I can say in last minute what was the imbalance, and in the last 5 minutes what was the imbalance, or whatever it is you want to set. And that's really, really useful. I see it just by looking at cumulative delta, but that is something that is really hard to keep track of from watching just the orders in here. Okay. So I don't think that this particular thing I would necessarily use as like judging the strength of a breakout though. Like, because I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, well, I've seen an X change in cumulative delta, that's not enough for it to break out. But maybe if it's this larger number, then that will be able to break out. It doesn't work that way. And I'll tell you why. Because the thing that will determine whether it's a breakout or not is how much they need to buy. And they tend to buy in waves. So, and there's almost always there's like a breakout, and then it kind of makes it look like that it's a fake breakout, and then maybe you see it continue on or not. So like at that point, how do you know if it's a fake breakout or not? Well, the only way that you can possibly know is if you know how much the big buyer is going to buy. That's the only way. That's literally the only way to know whether it's going to be a true breakout or not, is to know who is buying it and why. Now, sometimes you can know that because you might know that it's like the end of the month, and so there's going to be these big players rebalancing their portfolio at the end of the month, or there are situations like that where you can kind of know. But a lot of the time you're not. I mean, most of the time you're not going to know, and then there's really no way to know if it's a breakout or not. And that's kind of like the whole thing, is that our ability to really make short-term predictions is extremely limited. That's why I think that if you're going to be an informed day trader, that you want to be a sniper. You want to, only when you really know what's going on. Only when you really know that you have an advantage should you get into a trade. And that's probably going to be not enough trades. So I don't. But the thinking that I think you're kind of coming at me with kind of, it seems like I'm in line with this idea that like the market is supposed to be an accurate reflection of all available information. And so if I can't necessarily see what the market is trying to say at this exact moment, just based off of price, maybe I can combine these other things like the depth of market and the signing market orders to determine what's going to happen. And the answer is that doesn't help either. Because you can't see the flow that's coming. You can only see the flow that's already hit. And a large flow could come in at any moment in any direction. We could just have a bunch of market orders come in and hit us and break us down to the lows, and it could just, because that's just when they decided to execute it, right? There's nothing in the past price history that's going to tell you that. Absolutely nothing. If there was, we would have already figured the market out. Oh, your portfolio dropped on the open? Must have been some stuff in your portfolio that didn't really have a pre-market. Oh, popped hard. Well, because the treasuries are up. Could it really be that hard from the treasuries, though? Because we've had bigger moves up in the treasuries lately, and you weren't that excited. Yeah, there you go. I pay $6 billion a week to be able to spy on every trader in the world, potential orders, and scanning their minds to predict price. Yeah, there you go. That's what you would have to do to be able to predict all movement. Oh, it's all in the oil. Oh, yeah, because oil is... Well, but that means you were probably down big last week, too, right? Because, like, man. This was ugly. This was ugly. 2%. Wow, that's pretty good. Wait, is oil overall up 2%? 1.4%. So your oil stocks are outperforming oil itself. That's interesting. Copper is the biggest winner today, by the way. Didn't notice that when I was looking at this. Is that because we've moved further since then? It's because we've moved further since then. Oh, yeah. Still not quite there, though. Last high was at 431. But not terrible. Still pretty good. Yours says 2.27. Mine's, so I'm probably going from the beginning of the session, and you might be going from the last session. Maybe that's explains the difference. Yeah, they're probably running hard. I look at the S&P 500. The S&P 500 made a pretty strong opening move as well. They are retracing it, so let's give it some time. But that opening volley looked pretty strong to me. Dude, this guy that tried to assassinate Trump just looks like a complete crazy. Here's these pictures, he's trying to smile like what? Yeah, that's good. Well, you know, one has to wonder if oil is a good buy here. Like below 70. Well, yeah. Anywhere at around 70, I think it should be okay, right? Where did you hear that he will only be receiving probation? Well, since he didn't actually fire any shots, that might limit what they can charge him with, right? Police filing report? I'll have to see. If he had taken shots, then it would be attempted murder, right? But I wouldn't get too excited about the first headlines that you hear about that stuff. 500 elected officials call for more migrants to be admitted. Man. His mugshot isn't on Florida arrests yet. That's interesting. So, you know, something that drives me crazy is that they'll take the guy's Twitter down. I think that from the position of the social media company, that it probably is prudent for them to, you know, take it down. But it just makes me feel like they're hiding something, you know? I guess everybody got, you know, archived it before they brought it down, but good grief. Good grief. Yeah. Scrolling through. And he looked like he was a fairly active poster. I can imagine, you imagine if like, obviously I would never do something like that, but maybe I was the victim of a crime like that. Maybe I was the victim of a crime like that, and it was national headlines, and then people started, you know, trying to scroll through my history. Can you imagine? Like, because it'd be too big. It'd be too big. Especially if they wanted to go into like my Facebook history. I haven't posted hardly anything on Facebook in the past 4 years, but before that, I posted like 2 times a year. So you're talking about like probably 3,000 posts. Can't scroll through that in you know 30 minutes and record it all, can you? And then if they wanted, man, if they had a reason to take down my YouTube channel, no way that anybody'd be able to save all that. Whew. But that's kind of a thing that I find curious about it. Most people don't post on social media that much. I'm weird in that respect. And here, some of these shooters, sometimes they don't have any social media. I think that the other guy did, but it wasn't very much, and they took it down. They got to it before people. Oh, that's right. But people found stuff from Discord. That was interesting. Are they going for another low? I think that if they breach the lows here this time, granted, I'm not seeing a whole lot of trendiness in it. Cumulative delta back by about 6,000 contracts, 6 to 10,000 contracts. But could that be enough for the dam to break, and then we start to see more trendiness on the downside? Yeah, I think so. Routh expressed anger at the Federal Reserve, yeah. You could be charged with aggravated assault if you point a rifle at someone unprovoked in Florida. There you go. They're sitting right there on it, and they're not hitting it though. They're acting awfully nonchalant for sitting at the lows of the session, don't you think? So that alone kind of makes me a little bit skeptical about that. It's just the dam's gonna break and it's gonna flip through. So there's a new low, only 16 contracts so far. Okay, there's a clear. I mean, it looks like it's going to come through. It's not very exciting. So I'm a little concerned about, they make 2 or 3 ticks and then pull back. But let's see. It could just all of a sudden come out like a crash, and then we'll be like, oh, wish we were short because it is awfully heavy there. All those 5Ks sitting on the offer now. I mean, if that holds, that definitely suggests slower, but I wouldn't trust those offers. It is down across the board. So if we're looking for a hawkish repricing and the deltas across the board are short. So we do have enough on the technical side to suggest a short. I'm just not sure about this particular situation. Seems a little bit congested here. It's not like breaking out. It's pretty slow still. Like maybe if I was short from 13 I could hold it, but I don't think that I can get in here. Too much of a chance of it getting sucked back up. Wow, now you're almost getting 6,000 at 11. Iceberg at 10. And cleared. 5 only on the 10-year though. Yep, and then they're hightailing it already. Okay, but that means that what we were seeing at 11 was not a spoof so much as it was just an accumulation of orders there. 50 to 95% of Haitians practice voodoo for real. Cumulative delta is positive? Are you talking about in the treasury? Maybe since that low, but only barely. Ooh, there you go. Comes right back up through it. Well, they got through the 11, so that alone is kind of like, if you see those big orders and they kind of come through those big orders, that's usually a pretty good sign that at least that leg of the downward trend is over. Okay, oh, that's kind of interesting. That last bar. So like I was saying, the cumulative delta is up since the low, but it's kind of tepid. But part of that is that this down move wasn't that huge of a move in cumulative delta either. And this rise is much more aggressive. This rise is much more aggressive than the sell. So I'm kind of wondering if buyers, maybe there's some people that want like dovish repricing or are looking for the dovish trade, and they weren't too impressed with the downside, and so that's why they're buying it so aggressively. So I have to say I was not too impressed with the downside either. But I was kind of like looking at it like, okay, New York Fed manufacturing has us down. I don't really see any other flows coming in here, despite us coming down to the lows. So I'm not so sure that it's, really going to create anything unless people get stopped out. But then they would be way more excited about it right now. This pullback, yeah. But maybe they're reading it as, there's two sides and somebody's buying it. And okay, so that kind of moderated a little bit. That overall though puts it into like a mixed zone, which is not like it breaks any kind of trade for me. I could with a little bit more consistent upside delta, and maybe I could take a long, because I'm looking for the repricing in the treasuries, not necessarily dead set on the direction of it. I think that it should be down, but I think there's a strong possibility of people coming in and taking the long as well. Oh, what's the cost basis is a good question. 13.5. So the cost basis is still above this zone right here. I think one of the issues I might see in a situation like this is it really seems like the 5-year is the driver. So maybe we would want to put it on the 5-year. I don't want to do that because, like, having it on all of them just is a lot of processing power, you know? But let's add it on for kicks and giggles here just for a moment. Let's cumulative rest on session. Okay. So there, then you see that they, in the 5-year, went right to the stop out zone and then turned back around. So what I've found is that the lines in the treasuries in the 10-year, rather, the line in the 10-year tends to be pretty good. But if it's coming up short or long on that, then you come into the 5-year and the 30-year, and then you find that those ones are going to them exactly. So which one do you trust in which situation and all of that? I don't know. Maybe we could do some sort of machine learning thing that would tell us that. But there might not actually be anything to it. We don't have enough data. You know, I can't collect enough data just from looking at it to know. So it looks like the S&P 500 made a new high there, though. Like they came back after that initial open, and now they're just whoosh. Almost to 5,700 there. Or sorry, not 5,700. Oh, you know what? It'll be 5,700 on the front contract. I don't know why. So this is the week that you would roll over in ES, but I don't know why my NinjaTrader rolled over ES today, because shouldn't the rollover be more like Tuesday, Wednesday? It looks like there's decent activity and liquidity in the old contract still, so let's keep it there. Actually, let's pull the other one up and compare at least. Let's compare at least. December. I would say that they look pretty similar, actually. So another thing that I'm seeing out there today was that there was a leak of what the Chief Justice was doing during this last session and how they handled all of these different cases and everything. And the left is presenting it as like he was meddling in the cases and stuff. But what I see is that's the way that the Supreme Court works on all of these things, as far as I understand it. So, like, here's another example of where, you know, people will utilize your intuition against you. Oh, I forgot about the Laura Loomer thing. Man, before the assassination, all the left could talk about was Laura Loomer. Good grief. And who was it? Milo Yiannopoulos was saying on his Twitter that she gave Trump a blowjob. And I kind of believe him. So, like, maybe that happened. But if it was like to come out publicly or anything, I don't think anybody would care. I think that we all kind of assumed that people were giving Trump blowjobs, but whatever. Milo is a serial bullshitter? Well, he doesn't know himself. That's for sure. Right. He's citing mutual friends. So it wouldn't surprise you. I mean, would you be surprised? Do you think that the Trump supporters would react negatively to this story? Like honestly, with what we know about the president, I almost have to assume that he's cheating on his wife in some capacity. I don't get surprised anymore. Now, I think Laura Loomer is a nut job, but that's a different story. What bothers me, how do influencers like that get that close to it? I don't know. The media machine picks up certain people and not other people, and it doesn't make any sense to me sometimes. Trump's biggest weakness is involving his campaign too much with internet people. I think you're right. I think that Donald Trump is chronically online. I think that he will go, you know, I don't think that he's like online all the time, but I think that he probably reads his Twitter feed every day. And he seems to put too much weight on the things that he sees on his Twitter feed or on, you know, does he go to patriots.win? Maybe. And I think that yeah. And because you can see a lot of, one of the things that he'll say is they're saying, he doesn't say it's true or not. He just repeats the rumors, right? And then when he repeats the rumor, then all the people on patriots.win, you know, do a celebration dance because they think that they were the ones that told him about that thing. Okay, there's... Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. We touched 13 before. Thought that uptick looked a little bit significant, though. Okay, so you know what's something that really bothers me? I'm gonna go, like, this is gonna be, like, completely outside of left field. But something will happen, and I'll have an opinion about it. And then there will be all these people on the internet that disagree with your opinion and argue against you vehemently. And then you end up being right, and everybody just kind of pretends like that they were always against it. Right? So in politics, they like almost never admit that they're wrong. But like, so what's getting me to talk about this? Stormgate's failure might actually be a good RTS. So there's this game that was supposed to be like a successor to Blizzard games, and it had a lot of the StarCraft 2 developers on it. Not the biggest guys, but it had a lot of the bigger guys on it. And they basically decided that they were going to make it like StarCraft 2, but slower and with heroes like Warcraft 3. So it was kind of a combination between StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3. And they wanted to simplify a lot of things like the macro and so forth. So the whole idea was that it was like the macro mechanics and these other kind of difficulties that made real-time strategy games too difficult, and ergo why people didn't play them or something like that. And when I played it, I did not enjoy it at all. And I kind of felt like that they had taken out all of the interesting nuances that made the game fun, particularly as it pertains to like micro mechanics, how the units engage with each other. And some people argued with me so hard. And now here, like what, 6 months later, Stormgate is considered a failure. Like it's failing before it even gets out of early access. It's just wild to me how the narrative changed over there so quickly, from like so many people trying to defend it to like, oh, yep, it was a bad game. And that's one of those things that makes me think like, oh, you guys, you're just fluffing the developers, developer fluffers. I'm still not buying the 50 basis point dump at the FOMC. So can we? Yeah, sure. Let's have a poll. That's a great idea, actually. Engage with your audience. Start a poll. 50 BP. 25 BP. Okay, there you go. I'm not going to put the question in there. It's just going to say question, because you know what, even for the people that like didn't hear us talking before, did you come into the stream just now and they see that and they see the choices are 50 basis points, 25 basis points, they should know what the question is, right? and you know me, that my opinion has been this whole time 25 basis points. At this point, the market is pricing 50 basis points a higher probability than 25 basis points. So I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. Because he isn't illegal, he can't vote. Man. By the way, this range here, particularly in the 5-year, has been a little bit messy. He cries. Oh man, yeah, you can vote, Uzi. It's okay. This isn't a federal election. Okay, there was a little bit of a sell. Like they came out of the range. I'm not seeing a change in the cumulative delta, but the Japanese yen is heading lower now after the top of the hour. So the treasuries are probably going to follow it. The Japanese yen looks pretty consistently down. What do you make of that? I'll post that in Discord. Only 4 votes in the poll so far? Come on, guys. But all 4 of you think it's a 25 basis point cut. That's funny. Okay. No, I feel a little bit better about it, you know, like getting a little bit more for it if we went for the short, but the technicals still aren't there for me. Like the cumulative delta has been flat through most of this range. It looks like it's dropping because of the Japanese yen. Dang. So that downside there, kind of it looking like a market maker fake out. The Japanese yen was dragging them lower, but the Japanese yen has flipped around. So. Hmm. You know, it must just be a slow day on a Monday. The viewership on the stream is not unusual or anything like that. I'm just surprised that only 4 of you have voted on our question. And you're all 4 are 25 basis points. There's got to be more to it because, with the market pricing still suggests, or not still, the market pricing after this morning and Friday suggests that there's a greater probability of 50. What's this say, Paul? The transmission shop has finished off my transmission for my beloved Suburban. Oh, Suburban. I've mentioned on here before. Yay, I'm excited. Still got to get it back and install it myself. Oh, cool. That's got a lot of work. You have all the tools to do that sort of a thing. I don't know how hard installing a transmission is. I think I've seen those videos of people like disassembling and reassembling transmissions. Those are super interesting to me. How quickly they can do it. You know, I find it kind of curious. We had a lot of stuff happen over the weekend and over the past week. But, you know, the conversation on the internet I'm seeing looks a little sparse to me. Kind of making me think that the activity has moved somewhere else. I can't imagine that it would be like Lemmy in those places, but like I'm just not seeing as much stuff as I should after like an assassination attempt, you know? Oh, here's an interesting thread. I think they're right. They're showing like trading versus acting in sports. So it's commonly believed percentage of traders, 95% fail. They say the average prop firm evaluation pass rate is 28.4%. That's about what it should be based on our Monte Carlo simulations. Then they're showing like actors 7%, NBA players 1%, football 1%, baseball 5.1%. So you are more likely to become a profitable trader than, well, except for that's not a profitable trader. That's you passed a combine, or that you're profitable in a forex. But like profitable over 5 years and or is able to make a living from it, it's less than 5%. And it is more comparable to trying to become a pro player. And let's see. Oh, there's some discussion on this. Let's see. Doctor goes to school 5 to 7 years to make his salary. People on here are complaining about being 2 years in on trading that can make a doctor's salary in a week. People have no perspective. Oh wow, where did this come from? In the hope of a Lamborghini. Some traders' statistics about prop firms. My Forex Fund statistics. New live accounts in October, 3,500. Wow. They really get that from one Forex broker? Past phase 1, 18%. Past phase 2, 31% of traders who passed phase 1. Reached the first profit split. 4% of traders who passed phase 2. So now 2 of 1,000 of those accounts reached the first profit split. Oh my gosh, that is so tiny. Then they do November 7. 7 out of 10,000 new live accounts reached first profit split. That's insane. I'm gonna bet you for these futures trading prop firms, though, that it's a lot higher than that. I'm gonna bet you that 10% could reach the first payout. Yeah. Forex is going to be harder because the intraday action on Forex is truly random. As of January 1st, 2022, 18.58% of candidates have passed the gauntlet. This percentage is based on account passed against new accounts. Where does that come from? Somebody posted their earn to trade stats, but I wish I knew where that came from. I find it kind of funny that number from, I don't know who this person is, where they got it from, but the prop firm evaluation rate being at 28.4 is almost exactly what my Monte Carlo simulation says should be the pass rate. Wow. With the US debt at 35 trillion, the cost of the borrowing, or sorry, the cost of the interest averages out to 3 billion a day.
Block by.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So they're just passing the buyer's cost basis there, by the way. And some pretty big orders coming out there, taking out a 6K iceberg at 14.5. Did you see? You know, actually, I did not. I've read a lot about it, that it was, you know, sounded pretty bad, but I haven't seen any clips for some reason. The last time, like when in her first interview, there people had a lot of clips of it, and this time I haven't seen that yet. Which I actually find it interesting for a different reason. Like, it seems to me that the bigger story here, rather than that her interview wasn't very good, is that nobody cares. And that fits in with what I've been saying more broadly, that the issue Kamala Harris faces now is she's not getting any political air. Like, you need things to happen for people to pay attention to you, for you to get your message out, etc. And Kamala doesn't really have a message to get out. The one chance that she had to do it was at the debate. And now, since the debate, she's been way more active. and nobody cares. Your answer on inflation went back to our childhood. No substance during the page on a new way forward, unburdened by mountain. So, like, I really think that the Harris campaign is in trouble here. Everything that I'm seeing from a campaign watcher perspective suggests that they're not doing well. They would not like this whole thing. Why keep her under wraps for weeks and weeks and weeks, and now all of a sudden you want to talk to media? If you were doing so well, if you won the debate and it pretty much locked in the election for you, then you wouldn't want to talk about anything anymore. You know what's another thing though? That's coming to my mind, I guess. I don't know. I think this is just my ADHD mind, like making connections to the things even though they're not directly related. But in the leak that came out about like ABC, they said, that Kamala, they weren't allowed to ask certain questions or she wouldn't do the debate. One of the questions that they weren't allowed to ask was about Joe Biden's perceived health. Not allowed to ask about that. But the other one was about her cousin or something like that embezzling money, like billions of dollars in money apparently. And it was likely that he would play a role in her administration if elected. And that is not a story I have heard anything about. That is not a story I have heard anything about. Not even after that thing, but that sounds like a huge scandal that the Kamala Harris campaign is worried about. And I'm kind of sitting here wondering, like, oh, did ABC just tip us off to an October surprise that was being, that they were leaving for October? Because, like, man, pretty wild if that's what happened, right? Because you've got to wonder what there's going to be big October surprises this year. There's got to be. I can't imagine what you would pull on Donald Trump, but I bet you that there's going to be something. Proof of infidelity? Maybe. I don't know if that would hurt him that much, to be honest. That's his whole shtick has been, I'm rich, do what I want. So... since they're handing those out like candy, apparently.
Block sell.
Okay, well, corresponding block sell. Is that at the same price? The buy was at 14.5 and the sell was at 15. I don't know. That kind of looks to me like one, it might be nothing, because especially big buy followed by a big sell and all that, it might just be a market maker trying to move things along and trying to clear things out. You can do that. Like if you really wanted to buy, but like there seems to be people that are waiting to get filled and you can't move, sometimes you can just fill them and then push it back, and you're taking a small little loss, but it moves the market along. In the long run, it's better for you. It could be somebody that was short down here puking as well. But on either of those cases, that doesn't really suggest future orders, does it? Imagine selling $250,000 worth of contracts just for the funds. Dude, I've literally seen somebody take a few $1,000. Actually 4,000 is probably too much. But you're only talking about a few $100,000, right? $5,000 times a tick, right? $15.625 times 5,000, $78,000. But if you're trading like $1 million, you know, like a $100 million trade or something like that, that's like a small little sacrifice to clear the market. On the other hand, it could be that they bought here, it went up 2 ticks, and then they sold it here, and that was them taking their profits. That could also be the case, right? But in either case, it doesn't really suggest more orders coming in. It kind of suggests that we might continue to be stuck. What do we got? 10 minutes left? Wow. Ryan Routh, the would-be Trump assassin, was featured in an Azov Brigade propaganda video in 2022. Wow. Here's a Zero Hedge story. It's a premium article. Rates need to drop below 3.5% to avoid a recession. Are there any convexity hedges left? Question mark. And great debate. By the way, did anybody else vote on this thing? Oh, okay. So now we have 8 votes. We have 8 votes and 2 of you. Wait, is that 2 of you? Yeah, 8 votes and 2 of you think that it will be a 50 basis point cut. I don't know, man. It's close. It's too close to call now. But I think that I said 25 basis points enough that I'm kind of committed, right? I think I said 25 basis points enough times that I'm committed, even though at this point I don't know anymore. Wow, Goldman losses on consumer business hit a massive $6 billion as bank scrambles to exit credit card business. Thought we were done with that. And that was 2018. Bank's losses on its now defunct subprime pardon consumer lending unit have hit the stratosphere. According to the Wall Street Journal, Goldman is looking to exit its partnership with Apple as losses continue to mount, and the bank is set to take a $400 million hit this quarter due to its floundering consumer business. You know, that was the thing that always bothered me about it, was that they were like, oh, well, they're partnering with Apple. That means that they're going to get a particularly high quality, rich clientele. No. No. Because anybody who's taking out debt with Apple, probably spending beyond their means. Speaking at a conference this week, Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon explained that his $400 million hit comes from two primary things: selling off its General Motors credit partnership and selling real estate loans. According to the report, the GM card business will be sold to Barclays with around $2 billion in card balances. In total, Goldman Sachs has lost a staggering $6 billion pre-tax since the beginning of 2020 on a big chunk of its consumer lending business, says, including its credit cards, a sad confirmation from our 2018 warranty. Several factors contribute to Goldman's massive losses associated with the Apple credit card, including lax underwriting standards and the resulting charge-off rates that are nearly double those of other credit cards. The fact that the latest Fed stress test revealed that Goldman, former master of the universe, now has the second crappiest, subprimest credit card portfolio of all U.S. banks. Only Ally Bank, whose stock got absolutely crushed last week, is worse. Well, let's not have a recession then, because I own that. In the years ahead of the COVID crisis, Goldman had planned to its Apple Card to bolster the bank's efforts and expand into consumer banking. However, in the intervening years, the bank, which had exactly zero previous experience with consumer lending, bank began pivoting away from consumer financing in 2022 after accumulating staggering losses, focusing its attention on its core strength, catering to big business and ultra-rich clients. Looking forward to the future, Goldman Sachs is looking to exit its partnership with Apple, which consists of the Apple Card and Apple Card savings account. Currently, Apple Card credit card balances total $17 billion. Wall Street Journal says that Goldman Sachs could face even bigger losses when it offloads the Apple partnership than the losses associated with the GM sell to Barclays. Last November, the Wall Street Journal reported that Apple had sent a proposal to Goldman to exit from the contract in roughly 15 months. The current fate of the proposal remains unclear. It's previously been reported that Goldman has talked to American Express and Synchrony Financial about taking over the card. If people are trying to assassinate you because you run for president, you're on the right path. Well, you know, one of the concerns that I have about this whole thing is that we are normalizing attempted political assassinations. When I was a kid, the idea that somebody would try to assassinate any kind of American politician was just absolutely crazy. No, that only happens in third world countries. But we've had a couple of attempts on the lawmakers, right? There was the Kathy Griffith thing. She was actually shot. Then there was the baseball game thing where a guy came and attacked, and Steve Scalise was actually shot. Nobody died. I don't think that we've had a political assassination where somebody died yet. And now we've had 2 attempts on Donald Trump, and the media is kind of not backing off from its rhetoric. So now I think that all of the crazy people are kind of thinking, oh, maybe I could actually try. Because I think one of the things that was deterring people was that the Secret Service is so good, there's no way that you would ever even get close to trying to assassinate it. Granted, I mean, there have been attempted assassinations on the president before now, like Reagan. There was an attempt on Reagan, and then there was JFK. But I think that you're going to see more attempts in the future. But what I'm seeing is a culture that's moving towards more attempted assassinations of presidents, and that really bothers me. So I don't think that I should say that an easy heuristic to use about who should be president is who's they're trying to assassinate the most, because it seems to me pretty good chance in the future that there will be attempts against a Democrat presidential candidate. And that's a very bad thing. You want to know what the big new innovation change they did with the iPhone 16? I am not joking. The power button is on the bottom instead of the top. Really? It's on the bottom? That seems like a bad idea. Now we all know the Secret Service is a joke. It's all for, yeah. Well, at least for presidential candidates, I would hope that they're better with the president, but man. Well, at least you know when that happens, the institutional reaction will be so unfathomably incredible. It will resonate for generations. This is true. Like if there was, especially if it was a successful assassination of a Democrat presidential candidate, they wouldn't shut up about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like the difference in coverage will be jarring. I say will be because I do think that at some point some stupid idiot is going to try and assassinate a Democrat candidate. That wouldn't surprise me. Like, I think right now one of the things is that most of the MAGA world thinks that Trump is going to win. If we started to get close to the election and all of the polls really started to show Donald Trump like 5 points or lower, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see some crazy try and do something. You know, you think that a communist is going to take over the country? Yeah, crazies will do stuff. I'm really concerned about the country if Kamala Harris were to become president, but that's just unacceptable to try and use political and violence and killing people, try and prevent them from being president. So, but I think it's almost inevitable. Someone will try. F no, they wouldn't. The statues would go so fast the brass would. What are you saying? Brass would melt on the way up. Oh, the statues. Like you're meaning like statues commemorating the person that was killed. I see. Yeah. They really tried to memory hold the first Trump assassination. They really did. Yeah. And they're trying to memory hold this one too. Because like he didn't actually shoot shots. It's not a real attempted assassination attempt. Like, and I'm already seeing the media like it's not the major story this morning. It's not. Zero Hedge unpinned it. The economy would take a quantifiable hit from the federally mandated period of mourning. Oh man, I really hate talking about something so terrible like this, but you might have a point. You might be right. Is there a difference in the way that it's covered? Yes. Let me tell you what. I wish that school shootings were covered in the way that attempted presidential assassinations were covered. Because one of the things that's driving the school shootings is the notoriety. If the news just refused to talk about them, I think that there would be a lot less incidents. In Europe, they don't cover it. Like there has been, like the biggest shooting ever was in Norway, wasn't it? Norway or Sweden? But the media there didn't cover it. They refused to talk about the person. The guy had a manifesto that they kept under wraps. They didn't, because they didn't want the guy's ideology to be spread. But in America, when there's a school shooting, they talk about it nonstop for weeks because like that's, scary. The news loves it if there's something scary. That's money for them. Oh, you know what? I didn't even hear the bell, but it is time for me to get going. Well, guys, quiet Monday. That was a relatively loud Monday, but it was a Monday nonetheless. So I'm excited for Wednesday. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.